What is up, my friends? You are very welcome along to Saturday night's late night agenda. As promised, we're back to discuss, well, what's going on, what's going to happen, what may not happen. But what I would say tonight to start off is to our moderators, firstly, thank you for all your efforts and everything that you do. You make this doable for me and you bail me out. But what I would say tonight, if I can, allow people to vent. There might be stuff we don't like. There might be stuff bantering us. But we deserve to be bantered right now. You guys do an awesome job. I couldn't do it and I wouldn't do it without you. So just give people a chance to vent today and maybe just relax on the rules a little bit this evening. You know, if people are reposting stuff or whatever, just let people vent. I know you need to vent as well, so by all means do. That's what we're here to do tonight, ladies and gents. Discuss what on earth is happening. You know, we can lay out the numbers. We can lay out the results. You know them. You don't need me to remind you. But right now, quite simply, I don't see a path forward for the manager for a whole lot of different reasons. You know, the results are what they are. 6 losses in 7 games, -2 goal difference, 15 goals conceded across those last 7 games. The biggest defeat in 10 years at Anfield in the Premier League. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But I think the biggest indictment is the players, the performance, the lack of urgency, the lack of fight, the lack of an identity. And I know people are going to say, and I understand it and rightly so, Craig, if we fire him, who are we going to bring in? It's more than valid question and one that quite simply I don't have the answer for. But what I would say is this. Should that be reason enough not to fire the manager? Because there are no alternatives out there. Because my argument would be, we're not getting better. So what's the positive of not getting rid of him? You know, if you don't want to get rid of him because you think he could still salvage this, fair enough. That's a different conversation. But if we're saying let's not sack him because there's no one out there, I would say anybody could get this team moving in the right direction with a bit of motivational speaking, a bit of a rocket up some players' backsides and some tough decisions. I just don't see Arna having the ability to do that. You know, I often said to you that my own personal thing was going to be when I think the players don't play for the manager anymore. Today was kind of that day. I didn't really feel it for the Manchester City game. It was more frustration that day. Today it feels like the instructions had no weight. Canade sniggering as he comes off the pitch, giggling almost as he comes off the pitch. Again, our best midfielder, shoehorned into right back. So many things that are absolutely unacceptable and avoidable with the spend as we have of 450 million. The biggest damning factor here for me is we're not looking like we're going in the right direction. Yes, there have been glimmers. Yes, there have been steps forward, but not enough of them. Not enough to justify what we're seeing now with this manager. I don't know what else to say. There's so many things I'd like to say. Like, do I think his Dutchness is part of it? Well, actually, yeah, I do. I genuinely do. Because I think that attitude, and you can see it in Virgil, you can see it. So I'm going to read you out something that kind of leans into what I'm saying. Liverpool fans weren't happy when Cody Gakpo and Gravenberch both appeared to pull out of challenges. The former allowing Murillo to amble forward and test Alisson from range first half. That's from the Echo. And if the Echo are saying that fans are unhappy at Gakpo and Gravenberch pulling out of a challenge, and I'm unhappy with our manager and our captain and their laid-back attitude, that's 4 Dutch players, or 3 Dutch players and a Dutch manager. Something about that laid-backness just isn't translating in. Dutch football is incredible. Arna's an incredible tactician at times. But he doesn't seem to be able to put a rocket up these players. And that's what's frustrating me. You know, Jurgen would have got a response out of them at halftime. Not saying we would have won the game, but he'd got a goddamn response out of them. Arna ain't doing that. And I think it's a mixture of him not having the gravitas to control the dressing room now that things are going awry. And he's not making it easy for himself with some of his decision making. So for me, that languid, laid back, measured Dutch approach, it's not cutting it in the Premier League. It's not cutting it because we need aggression. The biggest, or one of the biggest, indictments I can give you of Arne Slot right now is that he took a team with a clear identity, a clear track record of having bottle, stomach for the fight, and he has ground that team down to a monotonous, sideways and backwards passing bore fest. That's the truth of it. That's what we're seeing. A Liverpool that you don't recognise, that I don't recognise, that should be far better than we are seeing. The book with that, for me, lies solely with the manager. There will be times tonight where I'll talk about Salah, I'll talk about Virgil, I'll talk about individual players. But ultimately, the book stops with the manager. And yes, we got to talk about those above the manager as well. We got to talk about Hughes and Edwards and what was the transfer business. Was it thought through properly? Why are we not seeing any of the players look like they're a natural fit into the team? What is the style of football we're trying to play? These are all questions we'll ask tonight. So have at it, and thank you for joining me. Inzaghi is 10 times the coach and is there to grab. Well, he has a job though, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think Inzaghi's at Al Hilal or one of the sides in Saudi. But I don't disagree with you. He'd certainly be of the calibre of person. So here's where I'm at. I, at this moment in time, would fire Arne Slot today. And I would put Steven Gerrard in temporary charge, making it really clear that there is no permanent position to be had here. There is no, if you do well, you ain't getting the job. But I'd put him in control right now, because what I think Steven Gerrard would at least do is get those players playing. Get those players fired up. Get those players playing for the badge. Because they're not at the minute. They're not. They're feeling sorry for themselves. And that's something, with the greatest of respect to these players, you would have never labelled at them before. Never that they feel sorry for themselves. Never that they look beaten. These lads have gone to the well time after time, year after year, and proven that they've got the stomach for the fight. So what's changed now? Even when we used to win, the style of play wasn't entertaining, slow. Klopp and Zidane still available, just saying. The Zidane stuff, I really just don't get. Like, look, Zidane's calibre in football speaks for itself. His resume as a manager and a player speaks for itself. But culturally, I don't think he's the right type of person to come into Liverpool, nor does he speak English. And I also think he's taken the French job. I think Didier Deschamps said after the World Cup he's stepping down, and I fully think Zidane's going to step into his shoes. So I don't see that one as a runner in any which way. But you're right about the style of play. You're right about it. You know, we'll go back to the start of the season when we started, Mohammed, 5 from 5. Every one of us at least had the decency to say, yeah, we've won those games, but we're not playing well. We've got away with it, but we need to sort this out. And to give all of you your credit, we were saying that at that point. Nobody was getting carried away thinking, we're mint, this is amazing, look at us carving teams apart. No, we won games with courage late in a lot of them. But now all of that's gone, and all we're left with is underperforming players, the manager playing favourites, and a system that, well, I give him too much credit saying a system, because I don't think there is a system at the minute. Umar said poor pressing shape, clueless side to side passing, outside opponent's half, defenders not making themselves bigger while defending, shots too casual. Yes. It's easy, isn't it, Umar? It's easy to just say today, in its own, look at our defenders, look at their defenders. And the difference is there for all to see. Do they have the calibre and class of a Van Dijk? No. But they put their bodies in the way. You know, Elliot Anderson was blocking everything today. Murillo throwing his body in the way. You know, playing through pain at some points, you could see. That's the difference between what we're seeing and what they're doing. They're in a relegation fight and they're fighting. What are we doing? We've just given up the ghost at this point. So anyone that's come in to banter us tonight, I'll take that banter with good grace, because we deserve to be bantered. And I'd do the same in your shoes. So crack on with it. We played our best player as a right back today. Chiesa never plays. We play Rio when we're down 2-3 goals. Kirkes and Wirtz being shite. We have no system, no tactics. The coach has to go, said Anders Mack. Jack said Klopp or Eddie Howe for me. Look, putting it out there, I would crawl over broken glass to get Jurgen back. I just really don't see it as something Jurgen would want to do for a few different reasons. So yeah, I wish that was a possibility here. But here's the kicker. For all that I've said, for all that you're going to say, not one iota of me, not 1% of me thinks FSG are going to fire him. Not one. And when you have the likes of the lads in the Echo still there saying, well, this was unacceptable, but his job's not in danger yet. I mean, seriously, lads, what the fuck? How are you saying his job's not in danger? I mean, between them and Jamie Redknapp, it's just delusional. At what point, how many of these records have to get broken before we start to say, shit, this is a problem? This isn't a manager that's just come in this season and is doing this. This is a manager who won a league, spent £450 million, and is going backwards. We're in the lower half of the table. Biggest defeat at Anfield in the league in 10 years. -2 goal difference. 6 losses out of 7 in the league. It shouldn't even be a debate at this point that Arne gets fired. Today should have been the straw that broke the camel's back for everybody. Now, before other people come in and try to label us all non-match going fans, I've spoken to many match going fans via messages today and people who were at the game in our Discord, and everybody around them inside Anfield was saying Arne out. Everybody had had enough. Everybody was disillusioned, frustrated, and pissed off at what they were seeing. So be under no misconception. Right now, that is the overbearing feeling from most Liverpool fans that I've seen today, is that they have seen enough. It isn't changing. So, Dean is okay. Dean, I've dealt with this topic so many times, mate. You said we lost a valuable player, have some compassion. In what way have I not shown compassion, Dean? I don't know if you watch your channel or not, mate. I don't recognise your account name. But you'll see every time the name of Diogo has come up, I have been compassion personified. I have said openly that any player who is struggling should be given time, space, and the support system. They shouldn't be thrown into the firing line. So it's got nothing to do with that, mate. Were you talking about compassion when we won the first 5? Why is it when we're losing, it becomes a compassionate subject, but when we're winning, it's an inspirational subject? It's just an excuse, dude. It is just an excuse. If they don't feel they're fit to play, like I've said, no problem. Give them the support and the help that they need. But if they're putting the jersey on, if they're willing to walk out onto the pitch, then they have a duty to play for that badge. So I am compassionate. I am very compassionate. But what I'm not is a soft touch. World of Naturalist said, Slot has totally decimated what Klopp built all these years. We're going to end up at the bottom of the league before they decide, yes, we need to change the manager, coach. Enough excuses change now. So, from a points perspective, I think we're about 2 points off a top 4 spot at the minute. That's how compressed the league table is. So the gamble is, do you think he turns a corner, or do you make a decision? That's not for me to decide. That's not for you to decide. We'll all have our opinions. And like I said at the start, I don't think he gets fired. I really don't. But I know what the consensus is. You know, we've ran 2 polls on YouTube. We've run a poll in Discord. And the last time we ran a poll in Discord, it differed from YouTube on the same topic. I'll check back in on it now for you and tell you where we're at with this. 1 second. So, overwhelmingly, with 1,900 votes, 1,600 of those 1,900 want the manager fired. And this has shown up before differences, where we said he needs to be fired on here, and people in there have said differently. It's mirroring exactly what we're seeing now. I think we're just fooling ourselves if we think he's going to turn this around. That's just my take on it. Anarchy said he honestly doesn't deserve to be sacked. He just needs time to adjust. To adjust to what? What's he need time to adjust to? The team he assembled. Where's the adjustments? He's not making any. He's doing the same things over and over again, repetitively. He's not learning anything. So what adjustments is he going to make, mate? The damning thing today is that the players just gave up. That's the really damning thing here. And that's the part for me. That's the part for me. Dean said, it certainly isn't Liverpool fast attacking football. On that, sir, we agree. We agree, Dean. It's but here's the kicker for me, Dean. We all assumed and thought that he was going to go for this Paris Saint-Germain style, high press, high intensity, high risk, high reward style. We're nowhere near that, are we? Like, I'd understand it a bit more if we were, but we're not. We're in this mad system where we're just moving the ball around to look for things that aren't going to be there because they're playing with everybody behind the ball. So that magic passing channel is not going to open up by knocking it sideways. And again, how many times today did we see us take throw-ins and go backwards? Or be in the opposition half and end up back with Alisson? It's just too monotonous. It's too predictable. And it played right. Like, this is Sean Dyche we were playing today. If ever there is a manager that you can prepare for knowing what he's going to do, it's Sean Dyche. You know what he's going to do. He's going to make the penalty area packed. He's going to counter-attack. He's going to keep it tight and he's going to non-commit until he gets set pieces or chances on the counter. He had 2 weeks to prepare for that. 2 fucking weeks to prepare for the most obvious tactic from a manager. And yet again, we come up not just short, but way short. This one from Sonder. This league is shite. And what do? Become just as bad. Fabregas also has huge potential. So many options. Rodgers' era was more attacking. I haven't followed Cesc Fabregas' career at Como, to be honest, so I don't really know even his brand of football, mate, to be honest with you. But you're right. It's not a particularly great league this year. Now, I won't do to Arsenal fans what they did to us and say they're only winning the league because everyone else is shit, because I find that belittling. But they're going to canter to the league at this point. Like, maybe Chelsea can mount a challenge at this point, but if they win that North London derby tomorrow, again, they're extending the lead over Manchester City. We're not even in the conversation. Heck, we're not even in the top half of the league table. Let that sit. Everything can go above us. JCD said Slot said he's happy with our centre-back choices and then refuses to use Gomez. Also says we didn't replace Diaz to try and grow Rio and he won't use him. I've made these points exactly as you've made them. You know, it's all very well and good telling us we have 6 forwards, but when you don't use 6 forwards, when you refuse to use 2 of them, you're undermining yourself. So you're right, and I agree with you. On the Gomez thing, he did say that he hadn't trained enough this week to play today. So I'm going to say again then why the fuck is he on the bench? You know, if he's fit enough to be on the bench, isn't he not fit enough to play? And I just want to triple check he was on the bench because I did start this late today, the watch along. Bear with me. Yeah, he was on the bench. So why are we putting people on the bench that aren't fit then, aren't they? This is our gaffer, by the way. Wants a small squad, put players on the bench that aren't fit, and then moans you can't use them. I mean, genius stuff altogether. Very contradictory from Slot since the start, said not M. Gomez will play next. Will play next. He's got to. He has to. He has to. Because what's the alternative at this point? Canade can't play against PSV Eindhoven. He can't. It's insanity if he plays him against PSV Eindhoven. At this point, you either use Gomez at right back and put Endo as the second centre back, or vice versa. But what you can't be doing is sacrificing our midfield again to make a fix at right back and centre back. We can't do that. Let me get through some more comments. Russ said, at least those first games we had fight. Yes. And do you know what, Russ? It takes an awful lot for me to say these lads aren't fighting for the shirt, because we have so much history of these, at least half of the group, fighting for that and not being shrinking violets. But something's changed mentally. And look, I know people are going to, again, bring up Diogo, and it is part of it. It is a part of the factor, of course. But again, you know, it's a handy excuse also, isn't it? You know, we've all suffered loss in our lives. We've all suffered loss, and I'm sure it's impacting them. But that doesn't give you the ability to down tools and not have a go. You know, we looked good for half an hour today. First half an hour, I agree with the manager. I thought we looked all right first half an hour. I thought Mo looked all right as well first half an hour. But that's it. That's the end of the good news after that. Once we conceded, that was it. That was all she wrote. And we got let off with another goal that was ruled out, that should have stood. Now, let me get to their goal. Do I think it should have stood? Well, using their own logic, no. But I also think our goal should have stood last week. So I think both of them should have stood, is the honest answer. Robbo's goal and that goal today. I think neither of them was the keeper being distracted. I think it's just an excuse at that point. But of course, you know, difference of refereeing for the two subjects makes no difference. We would have lost the game anyway. Forest were the better team. But it's just more and more feeling sorry for ourselves at this point. So I'm gonna ask the question. The Arna question again, because I want to see if people have had time to calm down. So, should Slot be fired now? And we'll leave that running for a while and come back to it. Excuse me. David, I give it till Christmas, but I give him till Christmas, but I can't anymore. I can't give him any more time, mate. I honestly, hand on heart, bro, thought we turned the corner after the Real Madrid and Aston Villa game. I really thought we turned the corner there. But nah, it's going backwards again. It's no disgrace losing at the Etihad. Like I've said, with all that was in that day, with a Guardiola's 1000th day, but it's the way we lost again and the manner in which we accepted that defeat. Then he has 2 weeks to prepare for the most, and I mean this not disrespectfully to Sean Dyche, because Sean Dyche is very good at what he does, but there's going to be no surprises when we play Nottingham Forest today, tactically. There's going to be nothing that Arna couldn't have prepared for. 2 weeks, and that's what we played like. So a little bit coming in here now around Semenyo and Arsenal. Let me just read this out to you. Arsenal are expected to oversee a quiet January transfer window following record-breaking summer of incomings. At this stage, it's highly unlikely that they enter negotiations for Semenyo. They know he has a £65 million release clause, and they're well stocked in wide areas with Saka and Madueke in his direct position. So that looks like Arsenal are out of the mix there, according to Ryan Taylor Sport. I don't know which paper he writes with, but in front of fans, as in outside of COVID, in front of fans, Liverpool's run of 6 defeats in 7 league games is the worst league run the club has been on since 1953-54, post-Anfield edition. So this is what I'm saying. This isn't us reacting to 1 or 2 losses, folks. This is historical levels of shitness. Wayne said there is no more fight in this team, Craig. 1 goal goes in and we fall apart, like I said in the Discord. What happened to this means more. I don't have any pushback, dude. The fight isn't there anymore. And that's why I'm at the point of manager has to go. You know, that's the one thing I've always said. If I think the players aren't listening to him, that's it. And I'm at the point now where I don't think his words are having a response from the players. XXX Spider said, for the first time since I was a child, I hate/dread watching Liverpool play football. I don't trust this manager anymore. Get him out. It's time to go. It's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? Like, let's rewind ourselves back to August, when there couldn't have been, outside of obviously what happened with Diogo, which was the month before, but from a fan perspective with optimism, I don't remember a summer like this. We all thought we were going to have a season to remember. You know, we thought, finally, we've gone out there and won the league and we've built on it. We've gone out there and we've backed the manager and we've brought in quality players. And now here we are, 11th, -2 goal difference. trying to find justifiable reasons to continue to back the manager. But there just isn't any left at this point, other than the two things, the Diogo tragedy and he won the league last year. There is only saving graces right now. But again, I say, he took a team with a mentality, a style of play and a philosophy and won the league with that team, then wanted to change it, and it's been nothing but a catastrophe since he's tried to change it. And we're getting worse, not better. Nessie said, I still question the data analysis behind the recruitment of Slot, saying the transition would be smooth. Did they believe Slot would never implement his own system and use Klopp's? Where did it go wrong? I've been asking myself a lot the same question, Nessie. Even from the point of view of last season, we could see the similarities, right? It wasn't the same, but we could see the overall philosophy. And it was Arne trying to have a bit more possession-based, but still wanted to control teams with a press. This season, again, I come back to a simple thing. What's the identity? There's none. There's none. And that's damning of the manager. Because this is his team. He's putting his stamp on this team. And they already look like they've thrown in the towel. Darren said the pressing was back against Madrid, but gone again in all the league games. Exactly. So it's possible, right, with the fans behind them on a big night under the lights for them to lift up and do it. But it's impossible, apparently, to do it against Nottingham Forest, who are 19th, when you've just lost before the international break and everyone's been stewing on that for 2 weeks. This is the second time. Last international break in October, we went into it on the back of 3 losses. He then comes back and loses at home to Manchester United. This international break, we go into it in the back of a 3-0 loss to Man City. And then we come in with a record in 10 years, the biggest home defeat in the league, against 19th place at the time, Nottingham Forest. It's truly, truly soul-destroying. Maddie said if there was any signs of improvement, then you could stick by him. Yes, the established players are not at it, but our build-up play is absolute garbage. There's no fight in this team. Maddie, I am right with you. I promise you. If I thought that this was a system mistake or that Slot was implementing something that the players were making mistakes in possession or didn't understand, I'd be far, far more calm. But I don't see that. I just see players now who give up. Players who don't fear what they're going to get in the dressing room or who don't fear that they're going to be dropped for the next match. You know, and that's sad because there's loads of talk about standards on this football club. Verd says it, the manager says it, loads of talk about it, but there's no holding them to account for those standards. None. We know what's going to happen midweek. We know. And look, to be honest, even the worst Liverpool team should go out there and easily dispose of PSV Eindhoven at home. So even if he does make a change here, even if he wins that game, it's not going to change my opinion one jot. Whatever happens, he has to go. DIGIHIR01 said, I have a theory that this team can play without their heart in it, and they already chosen the Champions League for this year over the league, so they can't get motivated for a top 4 fight. Really like to hear your opinion on my super chat. Mate is killing me. We lost Leone. Well, I haven't got to the super chat yet, Gary. I will get there, mate. I'm just working my way through them, but I promise you, mate, I'll give you my honest opinion. Hi Craig, love the streams, especially when you lose. Karma for following an English club over an Irish team, unfortunately, hold that. So you're a dickhead, cool. How do you know I don't support an Irish team, by the way? How do you know I'm not out every Friday night at a League of Ireland game? You know nothing about me, but cheers for the money. Hold that. Forrest done well. Manager with a plan and committed players. Take no Arna. Now change the Arna out. Lost belief. I'm turning it around. On him turning it around, sorry. Forrest done well. Look, give them their credit. They won the game and deservedly won the game. Full credit to them. They did their job. They showed the fight and heart that we didn't. Like I said, look at it from a defensive perspective. Look at the two defensive displays and tell me which one of the teams look like they're in a relegation fight. We were called bad champions back in 2020. VVD was injured. It was a strange season and City were top. This is bad champions level performances. Yep. Like you said, there are some circumstances in 2021. But this is just unacceptable. Craig, if we keep playing this bad in this league, we keep slot, we don't make top 4, but we win Champions League. What are your thoughts? Would he still have to go? If he won the Champions League, no. No. If he wins the Champions League, you're never getting sacked ever, nor should you. But I don't think we can sit here and bank that we're going to be a different team all the time completely, because we went and lost to Galatasaray. Let's not forget that. They're shite. Like, really, really bang average. And we went and lost against them. So, you know, would I keep him in a job all year on the off chance that he wins the Champions League? No, I wouldn't. Nigel said, defensively exceptionally poor, no cohesion, no leadership in there. Should be VVD. Defenders not putting themselves on the line. Shape making. Engagement of opponent all poor. Who's coaching it? Very good post, Nigel. Yeah. Good synopsis. Right. Darwizzy said, just maybe VVD's legs are gone, in my opinion. It just comes back to aggression for me, Darwizzy. It just comes back to body language and aggression. And the manager and the captain, I'm sure they're both exceptional people. And Virgil's an exceptional footballer. But are they truly holding people to account? Or is it all this happy, clappy, positive, kumbaya, we'll get through this together shit? You know, because that's just bollocks. You know, let's be honest, it is. It's all just hippy-dippy, happy, clappy shite. People need to be held to account. Somebody needs to grab them with a scruff of the neck in that dressing room and tell them a few home truths. That's the way I see it. And anything else is just all airy-fairy nonsense. You know, just play like it means something. Liverpool fans will forgive a lot, but they won't forgive a lack of effort or a lack of fight. As they said in the Echo, Liverpool fans weren't happy when Cody Gakpo and Gravenberch both appeared to pull out of challenges, the former allowing Murillo to amble forward and test Alisson from range. That changed the mood inside the stadium, with Forrest going ahead a few minutes later. So the players' own lack of aggression and attitude turned the atmosphere inside the stadium. And do you blame them? Do you fucking blame them? Because, as you said, pussying out of challenges? That's unacceptable. At the very least, you match the effort of your opponent and the fight. Page said, rested everyone in the League Cup versus Palace for this. Mate, I called out the League Cup stuff and said it was nonsense at the time, and it still stings to me that he threw away that competition, because I looked at it differently. I looked at it that you're one win and you're playing at home. You're 1-win away from a quarter-final. 2 wins and you're in Wembley. Is that not a confidence builder? Is that not a fucking chance to get some positivity into the season? But instead, he throws it away, and I'm met with people telling me, well, we have to do that. Excuse me? Was the very thing we were told we were going to do this year not that? Was it we were building a squad to go and compete in all competitions so there wouldn't be another Plymouth Argyle moment? And then at the first sign of any little trouble, he bottles and throws in the League Cup. Because that doesn't matter. The fans paying their money to go doesn't matter. Absolute nonsense. The revisionism from some people is crazy. You know, we know what we wanted in the summer. We know what we expected at the start of this season. And that's a realistic expectation. To spend £450 million on a title-winning team, you're right to expect that to be retained. You're right to expect, at a bare minimum, us to be fighting for a league title. Not languishing in 11th place. Becoming a laughingstock. I want to believe in Slot. This is too much. said Andrew. Gary, as I promised, dude, I get there. Gomez was shocking his last 2 games too. He was, absolutely, mate. But this is what we have, Gary, my man. This is what we have. And at least with Gomez, I can think, I might be wrong, Gary, but I can think he's just not getting repetition. He's not in a rhythm. Give him 3 to 5 games, let's see. But you're not wrong. He wasn't great. Absolutely don't disagree with that at all, Gary. But, you know, somebody has to be held to account. So I'd rather look at Gomez at least being given a chance. And if he's poor, okay. But at least then Canade knows that he's getting dropped. Sonder said Ibu laughing when coming off is shocking. I thought I kind of imagined that at first. And then I think it was Nessie in the chat put it in. And then I thought, okay, so I didn't imagine that. He kind of did have that little smirk on his face. Does everybody, like, how do you think he was sniggering, laughing, whatever you want to call it, coming off the pitch, smirking? If Arna stays, where do you think we finish? Somewhere between 4th and 6th. Somewhere in that range. Because I do think we will get wins together. Ultimately, you know, but this was supposed to be the start of the easiest run, right? The Opta analysts, this is the easiest run of fixtures in the Premier League for the next 7 games. We had them. This was the start of that. This was the start of the next chapter. We build from here. Nope. First game, at home, shit the bed. Massively. Rudy Bot said, seen a few podcasters who never say a word against the club, even talking about Slot Go now. Seems like today is a big turning point. I've been doing this for 8 years. I've never, ever called for a manager to be fired until today. Now, look, you might say, hang on, Craig, you had Jurgen there. But even 6 home defeats in a row, not one part of me ever thought about Jurgen getting sacked. Because I knew he was going to be able to get a response. I knew that he was going to make some decisions if needed to. I don't have that belief with Arna. And that's why today was my tipping point of those players don't give a shit about what he's saying anymore. I'm not saying they don't give a shit about playing for Liverpool, but they're not listening or being inspired by his words. The Tattoo Gardener said, the very least we expect is fight and passion. Yes, 100% yes. You know, that's the minimum. When you put on a red shirt, that's the minimum. Fight, passion, and effort. And also, why was Ekitike not playing this game? Whatever about wanting to play Isak, I'm fine about that. But how do you not play Hugo Ekitike in this game? It's absolute nonsense. He's been our best forward this season. You might tell me Salah scored more goals. I don't care. Ekitike has been far more inspirational, far more impactful. And even when he came on today, he looked like he was putting himself about and trying to figure it out. How do you not start him in this game? If you want to play Isak, play him against PSV Eindhoven in the cushy, handy number midweek. Fuck, it's just insanity. Nigel said, absolute minimum, 100% all-in effort. The manner of loss is what angers. And that seems to be the consensus from the match-going fans. That, like somebody said in the chat there, today feels like a turning point because there's no unluckiness. It was just shit. And like Liverpool fans know what they're seeing. They know what they're looking at. They're knowledgeable fans. They know when it's a sticking point and they know when they've seen somebody who's just not able to turn this around. And he ain't able to. This one from Brian Guthrie. How are we, Brian? Unhappy with just about everything Liverpool have been doing, but I get back to the fact that our 950k a week front line cannot score. I mean, look, I can't argue against that, can I? Last 2 league games, we've conceded 6, scored none. I think there are some mitigating factors for Isak as an example, as in they don't know what to do to get the most out of him, and he's not match fit yet. On the other side, yeah, I get what you're saying. We're not. But I'll always back us to have chances. But if you're conceding from 1 or 2 chances the opposition get, it's pretty hard to win games of football. You know, because that first half hour, we were all over them. Pen them in. But the very first time they get a set piece, literally, the fucking first one, and we concede. Tommy said, feel sorry for the new signings, Salah and Gakpo too, one-dimensional and greedy, Ramsey on the bench, using our best midfielder or full-back, Gakpo and Milos can't play together. I'm just trying to figure out my response. I thought Salah started the game well. In the first 30, I thought he started the game well. But the moment that really angered me from him was the shoulder-to-shoulder with Murillo, where he was just so easily brushed off the ball and then just went to ground. And if I have to see one more attempted cross or shot with the outside of his left foot that either hit someone's legs within 3 yards of it leaving his foot or is straight at the goalkeeper, I'm going to lose my mind. Who's been in worse places, Slot or Amarum? Amarum. But the difference being, Amarum didn't win the league last year and then have a poor start this year. So we've gone from a manager who's won a league title, been given the keys to the kingdom, spent 450 million quid on talent, and we've gone backwards. This was a horror show. Our defence is a joke, said Red's Army. Slot should be sacked, and if he does, who would you replace him with? Should Slot be sacked, sorry, and if so, who'd you replace him with? So the second part, I truly just don't have the answer. You know, I can give you my version of some names you want to throw at me, but as I sit here, outside of begging and pleading Jurgen to come back, I absolutely haven't got an answer. Because even if we say Andoni Iraola, that's a risk. That's a risk, because he's making another big step up, same as Arna did and same as Rodgers did. So, and I also don't think Andoni Iraola has the gravitas to manage a club the size of Liverpool. I just don't think he's there yet. So my take is, I'd give it to Steven Gerrard for a brief time with an absolute clear cut, you're not getting this job. It doesn't matter if you win 3 games. You're steadying the ship, but you're not getting the job. It has to be clear. And there's no sentiment. If he starts winning games, I still don't want him getting the job. But I would give it to him now for the time being. Maybe get Gary Mack in to help him out. I don't know at this point. I don't know a permanent answer. I just don't. And I wish I had an answer. I truly, because I've been racking my brain on this one for the last 2 hours. I don't have the answer. Look, some of the names mentioned, Inzaghi, very credible. Zidane, just so far removed from a Liverpool manager, I can't even believe people are suggesting it. But also, he'll probably take the French job after the World Cup. Swish said, Alisson was injured, our backup centre-back got injured, and our defensive centre-back fell through. I still think we should be fired, it's clear. So Alisson was injured, right, but he was also injured last season and the season before. Our backup centre-back got injured. He was. That's fair. That was unlucky. No argument there. But we also didn't bring in the other centre-back, as you said. That fell through. So I guess the question I'd have on the centre-back thing, and we discussed this the other night, was, why do we leave it so late? Genuinely, like, if there's one thing we know managers want with new players, it's time on the training ground. You know, time to get them used to the tactics, time to bed them into the team, pre-season friendlies. So the whole leaving until the last minute thing for a position that was always going to be an important one, I still don't know the answer to why we did leave that one so late, in all honesty. But the rest, I think you've made fair points, mate. Kelly, how are we, my friend? Evening, young Craig. Having recovered from a stroke, I truly believe things couldn't get worse. How wrong could it be? Well, I'm obviously really happy to hear that you have recovered, Kelly. Obviously, I see you in the chat quite a bit, and I always look out and appreciate your comments. It's soul destroying, isn't it? You know, like, football means a lot to so many of us. So many of us. Our week revolves around the Reds. You know, whether you're going to the match, home or away, whether you're driving to your supporters club, whether you're just coming on here to have a chat with me, it means something to us. You know, you don't provoke this type of response from people unless it means something to them. So it is a sad state of affairs at the minute, Kelly. But you know what I find most demoralising about all of this, mate, is that you and I and thousands of others will have their say, but I truly don't think that FSG will pull the trigger and fire him. And that worries me, because I know firing managers isn't the Liverpool way, but I think we're past, you know, trying to just stick it out at this point. I think it's gone a bit further than that. But I'm going to ask you, after this poll is over, we're going to go back and I'm going to ask, do you think he will be fired? Because I think we'll get a different answer to, do you want him fired? Sonder said, you did change your username there, right? That G used to be an E. If Arne stays, we're not getting Champions League football next season. Said himself that he's the problem, so please leave the freaking club. If I was Arne Slot, hand on heart, I'd resign right now. Out of just embarrassment, I'd resign. I couldn't. The last 2 international breaks would have haunted me if I was in his shoes. I'd have been sitting there every day, every night with the coaches, doing my nut, trying to figure it out. And if we come back from two week breaks to prepare, and this is what we get afterwards, 2 losses, 1 to United at home, couldn't get up for that, United at home, and then 2 weeks to prepare for a very, very clear identity style of play, and we still shit the bed. I don't have any faith left. And I think if he had actually the courage of his convictions, he'd hand in his resignation and leave. But he won't. Because his stubbornness will think he can sort it out. Maybe he can. I just don't see it. Listening to all the former players talk about Klopp's winning mentality hits different. Teams used to fear coming to Anfield or even facing us anywhere. Yeah, because they knew, yeah, you might win, but it ain't going to be easy. You're going to earn that win. You're going to earn those points. Now, they don't have to earn anything. They just have to score the first goal and the rest follows. I heard Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, I read it out during the week, him saying every time he went out there, he felt like he was going to war. He was so riled up by the manager. They were so prepared that whoever was out there, they felt they were going to win that game of football. I'm not seeing the same confidence inspired from the manager now. Muldor said, it's not just that we're losing, it's how we're losing. We look lost, pathetic, and have no fight effort. Sadly, Slot needs to go. And I think your comment probably mirrors how we're all thinking and feeling. It isn't just that we're losing. My mum used to say to me all the time about stuff, it's not what you say, it's the way you say it. Because I'm blunt, as you know, and I was that way as a kid. So she always said to me, it's not what you say, son, it's how you say it. It's kind of the same thing here, right? It's no shame in losing the game of football if the better team comes and beats you. But there is losing at home with a whimper and going out with your tail between your legs. That's not acceptable. Right, let's look at the poll. We're nearly at 3,000 votes. So when we get to 3,000 votes, we'll knock it on the head. But If you haven't voted, now's the time. Should Arne Slot be fired? Yes or no? This is the fourth one of these polls today across different platforms. And every one of them have been pretty blunt. So, 3,000 votes, 79% of the 3,000 votes think the manager should be fired. 79%. That echoes pretty much the numbers we had earlier on. It echoes what we're seeing in WhatsApp. People ain't happy. And look, yes, there's going to be a few percentage there from opposition fans coming in, hitting the button. That's part of the game. But now I'm going to ask you the other question. So now I'm going to ask, do you think that he will get fired by FSG? Not do you want, do you think that they're going to fire him? Because on this one, I'm going to say no. I don't think he gets fired. Was Slot an experiment like Brendan Rodgers? This is a really tough one because there's two answers to this. Because we can't just ignore that he won the league last year. So there's something about him that was right for that. But it seems to be, when it comes time to put your own stamp on it, he's looking lost. Now, in his first year at Feyenoord, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of his first season, he made 7 or 8 first-team changes, if I'm not mistaken. He's done something similar here at Liverpool, and he's spent a huge amount on really quality players, and we've gone backwards. That's damning to me. So was this an experiment? No, I think this one had more... There was more sense to this one, I would feel, than Brendan Rodgers. You know, looking at his body of work, Arne, style of football, I can understand the appointment. I definitely can understand the appointment. What I can't understand is taking a philosophy, pissing all over it, and then having nothing. No identity. Nothing. Say what you want about Amorim, but he's playing his fucking system and he's sticking to it. And he doesn't give a shit. That's his system. He's going to find a way. And he'll move the players around. Slot is trying different systems, different excuses, but nothing's turning it around. Craig, the worst thing is we don't even look like getting a draw, let alone a win. Smudger Vision said, give it a rest. So, no. Secondly, if you've nothing to contribute, go fuck yourself. I didn't ask you or tap you on the shoulder and say, come into this stream, and you clicked on your computer or your phone, came in and voluntarily contributed. So I won't give anything a rest. I'm going to continue to say what others don't have the balls to say, and you can sit there and thank me for it later. To get back to you, Bricktop, you're right. Like, when we went 1-0 down today, did you think we were going to come back and win the game? Because I'm not going to lie, at 1-0 I thought there was a chance. But I tell you, when they came out for the second half and I seen Canade running out, that's when it all went bye-bye for me, because there was no reaction. In fact, we went and conceded in a minute. In 1 minute, after the big team talk at half-time, 1 minute is all it took to capitulate again. 1 minute. Where are we at? Roy lost 9-31. Arne lost 8-11 after spending. Look, mate, I'm not trying to make excuses for the manager. I'm of the mindset that there is no excuse for 6 losses in 7, -2 goal difference, 11th place in the league. Just there's no excuse for that for me. James Cox, how are we, James? Said he subbed off a defender when we conceded 2 goals and left us with 2 defenders on the pitch, hoping the attack was going to score a miracle at 3 goals, only to obviously concede again. Yeah, Exactly. And then says Gomez isn't fit. Then why is he on the fucking bench? There's just things that just are laughable. We 3 goalkeepers. 1 on and 2 on the bench in one game recently. Daniel said, yes, we won the league last season, but it was a poor league, if I'm honest with ourselves. I don't think it was, though, mate. Like, is this year going to be a poor league if Arsenal win it? Look, honestly, you win the league, you win the league. I don't buy into this, it was a poor league or not. Because I've seen points tallies a lot lower than ours win the league. And I will not undermine Arsenal's league title by saying it was a weak league if they win it. I'll credit them like I promised I would. Because, like we say about opponents, you beat what's put in front of you. You win the league, it's not your problem if everybody else is having a shit league. You do you. So, for me, any team that wins the league, except Manchester City because I think they're cheats, any team that wins the league will get my respect because you've done it. And I won't belittle Arsenal by saying they won a weak league. No, they won it because they were the most consistent. And that's it every season. That's your aim. Like, nobody had the sympathy when we were hitting 97 points and not winning a league title. Like, unheard of things. There was no, Jesus, isn't that unfortunate? No, nobody had sympathy for us then. We won the league. I think we should enjoy winning that league. And not belittle it ourselves either. It was an achievement. Deserved to be celebrated. Liverpool are on course to lose back-to-back league games by a 3-goal margin for the first time since 1965. Ouch. Unwanted stats everywhere for Arna, writes the BBC. This one from Airwolf. What's the alternative, Craig? Nothing out there. I don't have an alternative for you, mate. I've been honest about that from the start, but let me just put it this way. An alternative, even a stopgap, to at least motivate a response from the players is better than just continuing to do this every week and see us just regress into our shell. Because the longer these players are having their confidence dented, the harder it's going to be for somebody to right the ship. So I don't have an answer for the alternative. I really don't. But I would argue that bringing in somebody to steady the ship and at least build some confidence in these players is better than continuing to just progress with what we have. Michael, the coffee drinker, said, I feel that we changed the squad too much. The team, if it works, don't fix it. Or the term, excuse me, if it works, don't fix it. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. Should be used here. We changed a Klopp-built team into a slot one. But here's the real kicker for me, Michael. I swear, mate, I think this team could play that way. I think this team could do that PSG type of game plan. That high intensity, high press, condense the pitch, overload you in wide areas. I think they could do that. But he hasn't even tried that. That's what has me so confused. Like, the players we brought in, Ekitike can press. Wirtz is a pressing machine and covers so much distance. Kirkes, as we know, can get up and down the flank. So I think they're capable of it. But we're not even trying to play that way. You know? I don't know what this moving the ball around side to side and backwards shite is. You know? He keeps saying something that really annoys me. He keeps saying something along the lines of, when teams come to play, we play well. So you mean when it's an open game and you've got space to exploit, we play well. Okay, but what about the other hell of a lot of times where teams come and defend? Were you again just shrugging the shoulders on this one? Another manager, another low block problem. Another 450 million spent, another excuse. You know, we should be able to pick a hole in a defence that sits back and just defends constantly. We should be able to batter that defence into submission. But we aren't. And that's down to his tactics. Craig, that takes a long time to do it. Nobody wants that time you take it. I don't know what you mean, Lee. What takes a long time to do it? I don't know what you mean. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, Lee. No, I love you, bro. I just don't know what you mean. This one from the real Johnny Sins. Craig, the spotlight today will be on Arna, and rightly so. But please don't let Canade, smirk and grin go under the radar. He should never play for us again. I think I'm going to ask that in a poll question in a little while, because I don't really know how most people feel about it. We've discussed it a couple of times. Nessie brought it up, and somebody else brought it up earlier. And there's a lot about Canade's body language that winds me up. A lot. So, I definitely agree he should be dropped. I can agree with that, but yeah, look, it should be pretty clear that the first thing we need to do in January is sign a centre-back. It shouldn't even be a debate now. It should be we're doing everything we can to get Mark A for the 1st of January. Because anything other than that's just bollocks at this point. Murillo made Canade look like an academy player. Yeah, and look at Anderson. Anderson, I thought today, was exceptional. Elliot Anderson for them. Both offensively and defensively, I thought he was standout. And the passion, the commitment was there. And Murillo was throwing himself around. Whereas our two centre-backs are too cool. Let's look at the first goal. Let's go back to the first goal. How did it come about? Canade was tracking back, got to the ball first, had an easy lay it off to the left-hand side for a throw-in. And he's so dithery that he stumbles into kicking the ball out behind for a corner. And then he challenges Virgil at the front post for the corner, while 3 Liverpool players, McAllister and 2 others, stand around Murillo, who manages to twirl and shoot without a block. And then contrast that to them throwing their heads and bodies at the ball at the other end of the pitch, blocking shot after shot. That's the difference. One defender wants to defend, refuses to give up the clean sheet. And our lads are just too cool for school. Craig, no disrespect intended, but your substitute hasn't got the fire that you have. He's so cool, like a cucumber. I miss when you're not on it, he's doing it. Look, to be fair, Connor's bailed me out, and Connor's been so helpful. We are very different people. He even said to me we always ring each other after the match reaction to go through the player ratings, and I give him my scores. He doesn't tell me the audience ones, but I give him mine. And he said to me, I'm glad you did that watch along today, because he said he's not able to really articulate anger in the same way. He feels it, but we're very different people in how we express that. I'm a very Craig mad, Craig smash kind of person, whereas I know Connor because I know him, and I know it gets to him as much as it gets to me. He's just better able to compartmentalise that. But today, without him, we wouldn't have been able to start the watch along at 2 o'clock because I had no electricity at that point. So, I'm entirely grateful for everything Connor does behind the scenes, in front of the camera, to help us out to, try to make as much content as possible. But at the end of the day, I've always said this is my baby in front of the camera. You're mine. And I mean that respectfully. Our relationship is sacrosanct to me, yours and mine, and I'm never going to give that up for anybody. There'll be nobody else taking my shoes. Like you and I have formed this relationship. So yeah, like I said, I'm very selfish about that. I'll admit that. I love what we've built together, and this is, I don't want anybody coming in to take over this. But I also, again, like I said, this channel will be nowhere without Connor. Nowhere. The intelligence that young man has is phenomenal. And yeah, we're very different people, right? Very different people. He's far more intelligent than me for a start. Right, Stargirl said Slot hired 4 similar tactics to Klopp. It's gone. Yeah, you're right. They are very different. You're right, and a few people said it, Stargirl. We were hard and we heard about the data being so similar, the style of play being so similar. but it's completely gone now. Like, we're so far away from the high press and high intensity style of football. Gaming Gaz said, good game, RIP Chloe and Shay, how's things with you? Oh, great, yeah, Gaz, nothing wrong here, bro. All good, nothing to report here. You're very good at this, Gaz, always coming in with a loaded question, but nah, man, look, we deserve the banter. I'm not great, as I'm sure you can probably tell. Why do we have the likes of Gomez, Endo and Chiesa in this squad when clearly Slot doesn't trust them, so why keep them around? I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I've said this multiple times this year. The manager's out there with one hand tied behind his back intentionally. You know, I want a small squad. They're his words. I want to work with a small squad. And then I'm going to ignore about 10% of that squad. And then moan about injuries. Well, maybe, do we have injuries, Arna, because you're having to repeat playing players over and over again? Because, you know, you won't play Chiesa, you won't play Rio, you won't play Endo, you wouldn't play Elliot. Is it possible that maybe you're causing some of these fucking headaches? And then today, let's be honest, you know, how many of you were surprised to see Isak's name starting that game today? Especially after Arna himself saying that he's probably not able to do a full high intensity 90. So I was flabbergasted that he started that game today. And more importantly than that, I was flabbergasted that Hugo Ekitike didn't start that game today. How does that make sense? You take one of the most athletic, versatile, creative forces we have in the attacking line and bench him. Not put him alongside Isak, that would have been far more understandable. But bench him. That makes no sense. And then you take Dom and put him at right back. Why? Why? He's our best fucking midfielder. We need to win games of football. And you put him at right back. Town said, did you miss your super chat? I probably just haven't gotten to it yet, dude. Let me check up above. It's a couple ahead. It's a couple ahead, bro. I'll get to it in a sec. Where are we at? This one from Itachi. We have to build an attack with both Isak and Ekitike. They would help each other to shine brighter. With Verts behind. Sorry, build for the future, not Mo. Slot doesn't understand that as well. I agree 100% with everything you've said there. Everything. I said it all week. It's time to look to the future. And we talked about having a natural time to do that when Mo goes to the AFCON without the limelight or the pressure from the media or anything. But you're right. Like, when we brought in Ekitike and Isak, every fibre of me felt we were going to play with Isak, Ekitike up top, and Verts in the hole behind. And Verts given freedom to roam. Every single part of me expected that was going to be the case. You have two top-notch centre forwards and a number 10. So you play two up top and one behind. But, nope. This team need a spark. We have two, Rio and Chiesa, and yet they still won't play them. So I'm going to go a little bit further than that. I'm going to say, not only is he not playing them, but he's now giving them fucking garbage minutes, where he's dented their confidence even more. You know, he's bringing them on when the game's gone and he wants to save somebody else's legs. Or he just has to empty the bench of any attacking talent on there. So for me, it's worse than not playing them. Because now you're damaging. You're sending in young Rio, 17 years of age, to go in there. And it's not 2-2 like at Newcastle where go on there, kid, and find a moment. We're 2-0 down. And you're bringing the kid on. Play him. If you believe in him, play him. Play him from the start. Give him 90 minutes to prove himself. Not throwing him in garbage time because you want to save somebody else's legs. That's not how you bring through and develop a young player. That's being a coward. Mythical Return said, didn't see the game today, thankfully, but was here for the watch along. Absolute disaster. It was, but I thought first 30 we looked good. I don't know if people agree with me on that, by the way. I thought first 30 we looked good. After that, Just a shit show. So, we're nearly at 2,000 votes, and then I'll move on to the Canada question. Right, here we go. So, I asked, do you think he'll get fired? Now remember, roughly 80%, 79% said yes, he should be fired. Do you think he'll be fired by FSG? No, 60%. Yes, 40%. So you can see the difference there. We all feel he should be, but none of us think that he will be. Will Wirtz be available for the Champions League game? The honest answer, John, is none of us know, mate. We don't know. All we were told is it wasn't going to be as serious and as long as Conor Bradley, who he reckons will miss the next 21 days or so. So truthfully, dude, I don't know if anybody knows the answer to the question yet because we don't know the full extent of what he's out with. What was the next poll I was going to ask you? Okay, I'll tell you what, rather than me forcing a poll on you, give me an idea for a poll you'd like to vote on, and we'll throw it in. Darwizzy said, honest opinion, is Isak a bad buy? For me, no. I wouldn't call Isak a bad buy yet. Because I guess it depends on what you mean by the question. I'm not saying he's a failure yet, because he's seen nowhere near enough action and he isn't fit. Was he a bad buy? The only way I could say yes to that answer is if the manager doesn't know what to do with him. Because Isak, the player, I don't think many of us have too many doubts about. Yes, fitness issues, that's a fair concern. But I wouldn't say he's a bad buy. But I would say it's not looking like the manager had a way to utilise him that was obvious. Because, again, today you see him out there and he doesn't look like he's on the same wavelength. I'm sorry, I'm reading through some of your poll suggestions here. 1 second. Ethan said, Craig, I love your confidence. You can put your foot down and say what's going wrong while others make accusations. I believe you aren't a real fan if you don't have your critics. Look, I have no... How do I say this respectfully to other people? The reason I'm so willing to speak my mind and stand over it is because that's how we built this channel. We didn't have the handy little handout interviews. We didn't have access to the club. We built this with honest opinions we stood over, knowing that we're alienating ourselves to some extent from the club doing it. Because it's honest. Everything I say is how I feel. If that annoys people at the club or they don't like it, tough shit. It is what it is. I don't say anything to provoke reaction. I don't say anything to be a contrarian. I say how I feel. And if I'm happy, you'll see it. If I'm not happy, you'll hear about it. But honestly, and I hope people agree on this, I try to be fair. I might not seem like it all the time, but I try to be fair. I will credit people and say when I think things are good. And I love this club dearly. And I love this city and its people dearly. I will... Whatever else happens in life, this has been a pleasure of my lifetime doing this. But I'm never, ever going to be a yes man to anybody. Never. Not in any fucking facet in life, ever. Never have been, never will be. And it's cost me. It's cost me professionally. It's cost me in life. It's cost me. But it is who I am. And all I can be is, authentically me. If people dig it, cool. If people don't like it, no offense taken here. But I am who I am. If you were Liverpool fans looking at Stevie G, why not Eddie Howe or the Palace manager? Well, Eddie Howe ain't going to leave Newcastle. Let's be frank about that. He's a god up there. He's just been inducted into the Hall of Fame, delivered them a trophy, they're in the Champions League, and they're doing well. So that's not even an option. The Glasner one, I'm probably more no than yes for Oliver Glasner for a couple of reasons. He has some pedigree winning the Europa League, but I don't think he has the appeal of a manager for Liverpool Football Club. And also, we've been spoiled with Jurgen. That was our once in a generation manager probably. And, Rafa I loved, Kenny I loved, Arna I loved up until he starts sticking his fingers in his ears and not, acknowledging reality. And I don't know, I just feel that's why I'm so limited when I say I don't have an answer to who should be the next manager, because I do truly feel it's a very particular type of human being that can come in and take this job and especially when you're somewhere like we are now, where you're coming in and you've got to kind of grab people by the scruff of the neck now and drag them along with you. That takes a big force of character to do that. So that's why I'm just stumbling over my words trying to find an alternative. Mark my words, Slot makes top four just. Right, but are we saying the top four is good enough? Because for me, it isn't. It's better than not getting top four, but that's not what we spoke about in the summer. What we spoke about in the summer was winning one of the two big ones. Now, you might say we're still in the Champions League, and that's more than fair. But scraping top four in the league ain't cutting mustard for me after the spend we did. Yeah, it's not it. And you threw away the League Cup as well. I know that I've had a couple of glasses of Jameson, Craig, but what about Andy Robertson as a temporary player manager? Not for me, no. I don't even know where Robbo is on his badges or whatever. For me, if you're if you're thinking short term, Gerrard, but with a very clear, this isn't going to be full time. You aren't getting this job. Outside of that, I'm at a loss. Honestly, I'm at a loss. Bring in fucking, I don't know, hiding a part time, fucking Dirk Cow. I don't know at this point. I can give you a few short term ideas, but I've nobody that I think is likely to come in. There are people I would take. Inzaghi, yes, I'd take. Nagelsmann, yes, I'd take. Klopp, yes, I'd take. But this is where I'm really struggling with all of this. Is not having an adequate enough replacement a good enough reason to continue backing a misfiring manager who's sending us backwards? This is what I'm sure a lot of you are wrestling with in your minds as well. Which is the better of two evils here, or the lesser of two evils? Do you sack the manager and then kind of see where the market is and stumble along for a bit? Or do you stick your fingers in your ears and hope for the best and think he's going to find a way to stop stinking the gaff up? I'm of the mindset of you need to lay down a marker and make it clear that this is not acceptable at this football club. I think you probably posted this, dude, before I got to your super chat, but as you can see, I am playing catch up. Problem I see, Craig, are calm as you like, captain, complimented feisty Jurgen, but a lifeless manager. Every camp needs an enforcer. Who's ours? Dude, spot on. Spot on. That's exactly how I feel. The way we say we can carry one passenger in a team. So, if Salah's not tracking back, but everyone else is working hard, you can carry one of them in a team. I think you can carry one laid-back leader in a team, but you need that dog to bark. You need somebody coming in, smashing up the dressing room, throwing cups at the wall, holding people to account. I'm so old school in that regard that I'll never believe you don't need somebody to do that. And I don't think Arna has the balls to take on the big players like a Salah. I just don't think he does. Like Jordan Henderson, yes. Exactly. You heard me give out about the way Henderson left this football club. You heard my criticism of him, but you never heard me say anything other than he was a damn good captain. And I don't think I've ever said anything to the different. He was an incredible captain, and he was certainly not afraid to bark orders out there. Finty Tin said, "Is that a fluffy Funko Pop behind you?" Yes, it is, mate. And now I actually have a real fluffy Funko Pop. That one was just an image of one, but now I have a real Funko Pop of Fluffy because Brian kindly brought one over for me from the States. Slot is laughing in interviews, hasn't apologised. Look, I mean, I don't know what to say. There's nothing I can say other than I think it's time for him to go at this point. Shane, how are you, sir? Hope all's well, bar the result today. I've not been in the best place lately, to be honest, but hopefully United will give me some escapism Monday night. I'm really sorry to hear that, Shane. I know you're a United fan and we have a banter, but you're a really good dude, and I always enjoy your interactions when you come in. You're always more than fair. I'm sorry, dude. I really hope things pick up for you. On Monday night, look, decent show. Everton you're playing, if I remember correctly. But man, on a personal level, I hope things pick up for you because you're a good lad and I always appreciate your interactions and you're always fair with me, sir. So, sending you love. Thundercats Litterbox, defo one of my favourite account names on here. Problem is, the higher-ups probably don't have a replacement in mind. The start is so surprising, there's no way they've done the necessary homework. That's, again, a fair and understandable point. What I would say is, every week that goes by now, it's getting worse. At least stop the rot by getting rid of him and bringing in somebody to thread water, even for the time being, to at least instill some confidence and belief back in the team. And then we can look to the longer term replacement down the line a bit. But look, it's a very sensible post, mate. It's a very sensible post, and I really do understand where you're going with it. I just think, as I said, lesser of two evils. Which one is gonna cost us more points? Gerrard should not manage Liverpool. He's an awful manager, great player. So for me, short term. Look, the reason I'm saying short term is, do I agree with you that he's not the greatest of managers? Yes. But I do think he'd be able to walk into that dressing room, short term, command respect, talk about what it means to wear the fucking badge, and talk about the standards of the club because of his lived experience doing it. So to get confidence up, to provoke something from those players, I think in a short-term thing, I wouldn't say no to it. But absolutely not long-term and no way to get the job. Just to steady things in the meantime will be my take. The amount of money we spent this summer makes this even more embarrassing and I feel sick thinking about it, said Owen Mulhern. Yeah, I get it. Like, as I said, having no identity is the biggest mystery in all of this. Because you bring in players for what? For what? What was the plan? What was the changes we wanted to make that these players were going to bring us on? We've gone backwards. We've gone backwards. As people have said, there was a Klopp team with an identity. He took it over. He brought us to a league title. And he did it, I think, by extending the battery life of those players during the season and preventing injuries. But he did it. And then he takes that and he rips up the identity, throws it away, goes out, gets loads of new toys, and now he's sitting at home thinking, how do these toys all play together and work? And he doesn't have an answer yet. And he has had 2 lots of time to break over the international break with 2 weeks to plan. And both of those international breaks that I'm talking about, the last 2, we've come back to a loss at home. One against United and one against Forest. After 2 weeks to plan. And throw in there these often as jolly bobs as well in the October international break. Off the back of 3 losses, United coming, and he's off in fucking Dubai. That's not a good look either. Town. See, he said, Craig, do you think the players bought is for a different manager and system? No. Truly, I feel like the players were bought for Arna. The system, I don't know, because I don't think any of us understand what the hell we're trying to do system-wise. But no, I think that they said, look, he's won a league title. He's come in, he's won a league title in his first year. There's probably natural change needs to come in the team anyway. Let's back him. But interestingly, what we don't know is who made the signings. Right? So we don't know if Arna had the input to go, I want Wirtz, or was Wirtz floated to Arna and he said, yeah, I can see Florian Wirtz in this team. You know, was Ekitike pitched to him and he said, yeah, I can see Ekitike in this team? Or did he hand over a list and go, they're the dream targets, these are the ones I think makes the system work? So in all of this conversation that we're having, and Arna's getting the brunt of it here, there has to be some talk about Hughes and Edwards in this and what the whole master plan was. Because Arna's getting the brunt of it, and rightly so, he's the manager. But the whole recruitment process now looks more questionable when it looks like we don't have a plan, a style, a formation, an identity that these players were going to bring us. Because on their own, individually, I can go through them all and I don't really have any problems with any of them. Very, very happy about most of the signings. But you and I and everybody else assumed that there was a method to what was happening. Shaheen said, any chance Klopp comes back? Personally, I don't think so. I don't see Jurgen coming back. I'd love him to, but I don't see it happening, unfortunately. I don't know if other people have a different view on it, but I really don't think he will. Do these players know what it means to our fans? Look, most of them, yeah. You know, Virgil, Mo, they've been there more than long enough. Alisson, they know. Of course they know. They know because they've shown that they know. You know? This is what's really confusing about it is a lot of these guys have proven themselves to have the stomach for the fight, have proven themselves to be up for it. So it's one of two things in my eyes. Either Father Time is catching up with the Mohamed Salahs and the Virgil van Dijks, or it's the manager. I can't see past anything other than one of those two. And either one is worrying. Whichever way you look at it, it's worrying. Petter said, do we have any chance to battle Arsenal for the league title? So Petter's a Chelsea fan, just so I give context to the question. Well, look, mate, you know, we were in a similar position last year, and to be fair to you and many of the Chelsea fans, you said, no, we're not in a title race. I still don't think you have the consistency to do it, but from a points perspective and a league table perspective, you're the closest to Arsenal at the minute. So, you know, I can just say to you that you're there or thereabouts. But honestly, I still feel Arsenal are going to win the league now. I thought City, after I said it over the week, I thought City were going to reel Arsenal in. But them going and losing to Newcastle today just gives Arsenal all the encouragement they need before the North London derby tomorrow. This one from Oliver. Bring Klopp back as an interim manager until the summer. Can you imagine Oliver saying goodbye twice to Jurgen? You know, if it was just for me, if Klopp was willing to come back, it would be 2-year cycle minimum. Because I couldn't imagine falling in love with Jurgen all over again for a few months and then being as heartbroken again when it's time to say goodbye, even knowing that the goodbye is coming. Yeah, I don't know, man. Still getting over that initial breakup from Jurgen. When he was our coach, every day I get up and I'd often say to my wife, I can't believe Jurgen Klopp's our manager. I can't believe how lucky we are. I can't believe this is actually Liverpool. Like, he's our manager. The whole time he was here, the whole 9 years or so, felt surreal. It felt like it was a dream. You know, because if you went into a factory and you put in all your managerial ingredients, the dude's going to come out looking something like Jurgen Klopp. He just had it. He had the machismo, the charisma, the gravitas, all of it. And I've never seen somebody more motivational as him. He's fucking incredible. So, sorry, in a long-winded way, I'd only take him back if he was coming back to do the job again. Because you know what happened. If he comes back short term, he's going to do well because he's Jurgen and he's going to provoke a response from the crowd, from the players. And then we're all going to hope. And then if he says, look, no, it's just, I don't know, man. I can see it coming to a painful end. We're unlikely to get anyone until after the World Cup next year. So a caretaker, assistant coach or coach is going to be hard to come by. Good ones are all in jobs now. Yeah, that could potentially be true as well. But is that enough of a reason to keep a manager in a job? You know, I find it weird. It's like knowing, this is going to sound a bit rude and crass, but it's like knowing you don't want to be with your missus or your fella, but at the same time thinking, I'll have to go back to not coming out on my own if I break up with them. It doesn't feel right, you know? Just it's not, if it's not working, it ain't working. You know, finding silly reasons to keep doing the same thing. Yeah, just no. Ollie said, I would take Andoni Iraola or Glasgow long term, but I really think we need to bring in an ex-player who's a Scouser or lives and breathes Liverpool. That's why I said Gerrard short term. Because he can walk into that dressing room, immediately command respect, immediately talk about and know what it means to wear that shirt, and at least get a reaction from the players in that way. Well, that was a fucking belter of an analogy. Well, if I wasn't worried about the kids, I would have made it a bit more of a blunt analogy. But you got the gist of what I was trying to say. Football is a results business, so need the best, said Alan. Yep, it is a results business, mate. You're right. And yeah, this one, you can't ignore it's a team in sorrow. I've never tried to. Never. Nor has anybody. So does that mean that standards go out the window? Like I'm genuinely, dude, I'm gonna bring this one back up so people know what I'm addressing. It's part of it, but it's an excuse. Like I said, 5 games in, 5 wins. There was no talk of sorrow. We knew that they were hurting, but they were still winning. Now that everyone's feeling a bit sorry for themselves, this comes to the fore of conversation again. So, like I've said multiple times now, I have absolutely zero issue if there's a player or two struggling and they can't go out there and give it all. I believe they should have every bit of empathy, help, and time and space they need. But what you can't do is half-arse it on the pitch. So if you ain't ready for it, that's understandable. From a human being perspective, that's understandable. But speak up, and that's where leadership comes in. You know, knowing that this person isn't right and giving them the time and space and making that tough choice for them. It's like a coach looking at a boxer out there saying, don't pull me out, coach, and they're getting a head punched off them. At some point, you've got to make that tough decision. So I have zero issue if there are people struggling. I am a huge advocate for mental health. I suffer myself, and I've seen a lot of loss in my life in front of my eyes, very fucking painful. So I will always have empathy for it. But I feel like it's just being thrown around as an excuse now, rather than trying to be a proactive way to solve it. Because if Salah's truly hurting, as an example, then give the man a month's break. Let him go away with his family. Let him get some help if he needs it. Let him get all the support that he needs, and rightly so, or anybody else. But we're not seeing that, are we? We're just finding into a way here of looking at an excuse. Where are we at? This one. I've said so many times I don't have an answer. I wish I did, but I don't know the answer to who could bring in Yeah, I don't. I don't have an answer. That's the honest truth. I don't. I could give you names that I wouldn't mind, but I don't know. I feel like Johnny hiding and leaving was an issue. It was something we talked about a few weeks ago that I wondered if we've underestimated the loss of hiding it behind the scenes to the team, because it was a strange one. You know, we won the league last year. He seemed a really popular guy in the training ground. A lot of the reports back were very positive about him, but we never concerned ourselves when he left in the same way, because we thought with the signings we've made we'd push on. But maybe, yeah, it's absolutely possible that he was a big loss behind the scenes. Did Liverpool spend the money right? I'd say most of it, yes. Um, let's go through them, right? Kirkes. When we signed him, I don't remember too many of us being anything but happy about that, right? So, and we all agreed we needed a left back, and he was probably the most natural fit. On the other side, Frimpong has been the one I've always held a question mark over, not because he's not a quality footballer, he absolutely is. I just don't know where the natural fit in for his best position is in the way we play. Moving into attacking area, Florian Wirtz, come on. We were all buzzing for that. Ekatike, very good signing. Isak, very good signing, but there's a genuine question, and Kara said it as well. Should you really have two on the guy number nines, or should there be one clear number nine at Liverpool Football Club? That's a fair question. The problem was the Diaz being sold and no replacement. The talk of young Rio being the replacement is just waffle, because he's not ready, nor should he be. So we've screwed ourselves there. Um, Other ones that we brought in over the summer. What other players am I missing here? Ekatike, Isak. Chiesa has been criminally underused, like we've said. So no, I don't really have any issues with the summer business. Other than not getting the centre back. That's the big regret for me in the summer. I actually thought it was a wind up when I seen the team sheet today and Ekatike wasn't on it. I thought Connor was winding me up. Nessie. So Craig, I hope we're better. Be hearing gay announcement before Happy New Year from the club in January. I'm still fuming that we lost him for 5 mil. I'm hoping as well, Nessie, that this is agreed and it's happening at the very start of the window. This is not Slot's fault. After seeing Robbo's interview midweek, it's clear the players are struggling the loss of Jota. Is it? I mean, Scotland qualified for the World Cup with Robbo in the team, and he could play with passion. And he plays with passion for Liverpool. And Robbo and Jota were best mates. He was his best man. So absolutely, he's hurting. But he's performing. So, look, I don't. I'm not buying the Jota thing as an excuse, because it's just that. It's an excuse. It's a lazy one, but it's part of a factor, yes. But you can't just blankly say we're falling apart only because of that. It is a factor, but you can mitigate that factor by getting the help for people who are struggling. But we're not doing any of that. And it was a motivation at the start of the season to do it in memory of, to build a memory of. How did that become the other way now? Why can't we still do it in legacy, in memory of? That's I'm saying. It sounds sort of callous to say it, but it's an excuse. Do your job. Do your fucking job. These aren't lads working 80-hour weeks. You play 2 games of football a week and you train a few hours a day. The rest of the time you get to spend with your family, and you can get whatever counselling or whatever you need. But you showing up, you do your job. And if you can't do your job, fess up and say, I'm not up to it, and get the support that you need and should rightly be given. Where was I at? This one. Muldor said, I used to not be arsed if Ebu signed or not. Now, no, he can go. Bring in Collins and Gay. His attitude is shit and his play is worse. Yeah, look, honestly, if I'm Liverpool, I'm saying to him, if I'm Canade, I'm in there signing that contract after the game. Just thanking my lucky stars that contract's on the table. Because if he thinks that he's going to walk into Madrid, play like that, and not get white hankies waved at him or absolutely slaughtered in the media, best of luck. Because you're playing in front of very patient fans now, and they've had enough. So I can only imagine if you go over to Real Madrid and play like that, the type of reaction you're going to get. Swish. Again, mate, I was working through them, so I think I did read it, but let me just scroll back through just to see, in case I did miss it. Yeah, no, I did go through your super chat. I just read it there, mate. But again, apologies if some of them are being delayed. I am working through them bit by bit, and I will get to them all. And thank you for all of your input and your kindness. Yeah, I don't mean to not get to them. I will get there, I promise you. It means a lot to me that you spend your hard-earned money, and I promise you I'll get there. Where are we at? This one. Tom said, Gerrard to manage until the end of the season. I mean, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that long of a guarantee for him, but certainly I've no problem with him being a caretaker. Just how long for, I don't know. Reese Byrne said, United fan here, loving the Liverpool downfall. $500 million spent to go backwards. Arne's a disgrace. Big players full of excuses and hiding. I don't disagree with any of it. And look, to be fair, mate, I respect the banter and I've no problem with it. Like I've said, we deserve to be bantered now, and I give it out and I'll take it. And I don't really disagree with your comments, to be honest. As a Liverpool fan, I find what you've said pretty much on the money. Alpha Cry said, after all the work done during the summer with the Galactico signings, to miss out on Gay after dragging it out for so long might look like one of the worst decisions in our recent history. Especially, like, when I think about missing out on Gay, you're missing out on him and not knowing Canade's mind. So, it's not like the club knew, we missed out on Gay, Canade's going to sign the new deal, everything's going to be tickety-boo. We missed out on Gay and we still don't know and didn't know where Canade's head was at. So it looks twice as bad now. Sonder said, Conte, Ancelotti, Mourinho and more got sacked after winning a trophy. Get me a right back and a centre back and a winger in January. Squad has huge holes and we need solutions. Ruby, lost my dad, granddad and grandmother, plus others very close to me, but that didn't stop me from going to work for 4 months. Life goes on. Yes, as I said, I'm same. I'm an only child. Both my parents took their own lives in different ways. My father drank himself to death, died of severe alcoholic hepatitis. My mother died of suicide. I still had to function. I still had to, put food in the kids' mouths. Still had to be dad. Still had to do stuff. Yeah, if it's perfectly natural that it's a part of what we're seeing, a part of it, but it can't be a carte blanche reason or excuse. It just can't be. And we've said this as well quite a bit. It's, even for the new players coming in, taking aside the tactics, the manager and all that, it was a very difficult environment to walk into if you're Wirtz, if you're Isak, if you're Kirkes. Like a very uniquely strange situation that nobody would have really thought or planned for. You're walking into a dressing room that's grieving. That in itself must be a very, very disconcerting, strange experience. Let's ask this question. I want to ask this question because I want to know what people's honest views are outside of a couple of individual answers. So I'm asking, should Salah be dropped? Here's why. No one's saying he hasn't become a legend for the club. No one's saying that he hadn't fired us to a league title last year. What I'm saying is he ain't the same guy now. And I don't understand what just constantly playing a week in, week out, and I'm not playing well, what we're going to do to change that, unless it's time to remind him that he's not undroppable. But my reservations around this are, every time something doesn't go the way Mo's camp wanted to, it becomes a big problem. Whether it's a contract renewal that starts eating into the newspapers and becomes a distraction, or something else. It feels like some of the rules don't apply. And to me, it's a no-brainer that Chiesa should be getting a run of 3 to 5 games on the right side. It's a no-brainer. And I can't fathom why he hasn't made that call, outside of 2 things. He doesn't rate Chiesa and he's scared of Salah. They're the only 2 things I can think of, because I can't justify it any other way. And as somebody said earlier on, football is a results business, and football is a what have you done lately business. And I don't know. He doesn't seem to want to try him somewhere else. So, if he moved him centrally, at least we could understand that. But he's not having the same impact on the right wing, because he doesn't have the same guy behind him either in Trent. It's and I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying Mo is the problem for what we're doing, but he is a big example of a problem that Arne won't grasp or have the balls to stand up to, in my opinion. And again, no one's saying it's not enough to just drop Salah. But what I'm saying is, you have to make a statement. You have to go and command that dressing room and say, this is my team. This is my dressing room. And there are standards that have to be set from the bottom to the top. Doesn't matter whether you're new in here day one, you're coming from the under-21s, or you're a club hero. The standards are the standards. And if you're not hitting them, if you're not able to do what we need you to do, then you're going to have a spell on the bench. And you can't tell the youngsters that these standards exist without holding the standard bearers to account for the same standards. Where was I at? This one. From the real Johnny Sins. Said, no, because Craig, that antic from Canade cannot be taken lightly. I want him excluded from the first team for that bomb squad like Sterling for Chelsea. That was what I was going to ask about. Yes, remind me to do that. Let's run this one quickly. What have we got? Let's try and get this poll up to 1,000, because I want to ask real quick about the Canade situation. So if you can, vote on this one, and we'll move on to the Canade situation, because I want to know if that annoyed you guys as much as it's annoyed me, Johnny Sins, and a few others. So if you can vote on it for me, please do. Ryan said, Ireland losing, Liverpool losing, bad day. At least the Irish team fought with heart, unlike our lads in red. No fight, no desire. Yeah, we were down to like 12 lads on the pitch there at one point against South Africa. Pulsating Gain said, I think we'll beat PSV but lose to Nuno's West Ham next week. Then FSG will make the call. I absolutely think we beat PSV as well, because even the worst version of us at home in the Champions League should be strolling past PSV. So I agree with you. And next weekend, if that happened the way you said it, I think a few might think you're on the right track. Right, we're up to 730 votes. Keep voting away in it, and then we'll get to the Canade question. And what we're going to ask about Canade is, did his little smirk coming off the pitch when he's being substituted wind you up? Because it's wound up a fair few people. This one, Ryan. I'm Irish in South Africa, so I'm getting it on all fronts. Yeah, sorry, mate. Tough one there, all right. South Africans are good. good blokes, good people, so they can take a bit of banter as well. VI Joker said, I would like to see more creativity from Curtis Jones. What do you think? Yeah. And under Arna, I do think he's progressed, but he's still not good enough, is he? There have been periods where Curtis has looked mint, but overall, he's not there yet. He's a very good squad player, and I don't mind him coming on in games, and he does always look for the ball. He doesn't hide out there on the pitch. I always give Curtis Jones credit for that. But there are things I think he holds on to the ball too much. There are still things that I don't think are quite there with him, but he has the ability to do it. So I get where you're coming from. This one. Hey mate, watching from Australia, love the show, but I'm getting tired of getting up at 1, 2, 3 to watch this. I just want Fede and Rio to play. I get it, and my heart goes out to you or any of the fans that are getting up at crazy o'clock or staying up late to watch this. It's very disheartening. Even when I get 3 o'clock kickoffs here, easy time for me to watch it, and I'm disheartened. So I can only imagine. I know people who drive an hour to a supporters club or a bar in Australia or Auckland or America to watch games at crazy times. I get it. I totally get it, mate. It's hard. You're saying to yourself, you're putting in that commitment, right? You're getting up. You're bleary-eyed going to work. You're lacking in sleep, and you're not seeing the fight out there on the pitch from the players. I get it. Right, we're 885 votes, so 100 and a bit more, and then we'll quickly ask the Canade question. This has been weeks now. Yes, Paul, I agree, mate. I agree. Right, 100 quick votes, and then we'll do a 15-minute Canade poll before we finish up. No pace on the wings, Brian Byrne said. Brian, here's your brother, mate. I agree with you 100% on that, and I've said it for months now. Dad Stube said, Craig, we missed Diaz tracking back. Yep. Also Nunes chasing the defence. Yep. Look, Nunes finishing was the thing that, made us all eventually say enough's enough. But you never say he wasn't a handful. You never say he didn't run the hard yards. And you never say he didn't track back in defence. Same with Diaz. No argument on that, mate. 100% agree. Leona said, do you think we should have kept hiding it? It's certainly a question of, was it a bigger loss, Leona, than we maybe thought? I don't begrudge the lad the chance to go to Ajax to become a head coach. I get it. I totally understand why he went. And to be fair to him, he turned down other roles last year because he gave the commitment to Liverpool for the season, and I respect him for that. So it's possible that his loss was a big impact, but I do understand why he took up the role. Right, 960 votes, nearly there now. 38 more to go. Would I take Enrique, as in PSG's manager? Jesus, yes. But you're not getting him at a Paris Saint-Germain. But would I take Luis Enrique? Of course. That style of football with our players be filth. This is what I was expecting this year from Arna. Is that Enrique style with our extra quality on top of the hard work that we are accustomed to from these lads. So yeah, I definitely would. What about Sebastian Hoeneß? He was on the list, and we did something a week or two ago, Shahara Didras, where we went through the list of ones who were on the checklist or were given consideration before Arna got the job, and his name was one of them. Spalletti was another name. I can't remember. There was a couple more on the list, but yeah, Sebastian Hoeneß was one of them. Truth is, from me, I don't know anything about his style of football, so I haven't got a clue if it will be a good fit or not. Oh, I'm struggling not to go back at Gravy Burn for his comment. I have about 8 mad jokes lined up. Yeah, I'm gonna bite the bullet on this one. I'm not gonna attack the little bitch. Yeah, I'm gonna bite the bullet on it. if we lose out in the top 4 race, it'll be hard for us next season to get back in there because all clubs will strengthen whoever gets. Yeah. But even with the players we have now, there's just no way we should be in this position. None. So, 85% say Salah should be dropped. 85%. Again, pretty big margin. Right, let's ask the Canada poll real quick. And by the way, it's not Mr. Potato Head, it's Lord Potato Head, motherfucker. Remember that. So, did Canade smiling as he was subbed annoy you? I think that's the easiest way I can phrase the question. This one, if we lose in top 4 race, be hard for us next season. Yeah, it will, because teams around us, we are jokers, like you said, they're progressing and getting better. Chelsea are getting more consistent as the group knits together. Yeah, it's difficult. Like, look at now, Palace are in 4th place right now. Who called you Potato Head? Oh, somebody whose comment was deleted. We do love, like, yeah, of course we do. That Irish stereotypes is not misplaced. Like, we do fucking love a spud. We do. And we love a bit of bread as well. That stereotype's true, you know. I'm an Irish man. I absolutely love spuds. Yeah. That's, you know, that's not misplaced. Jonathan from Germany said, Canade shouldn't start for this football club. That being said, our attack is the biggest problem and poor finishing creates pressure to our defenders. Sort of agree, sort of disagree, Jonathan. Agree with you on Canade, but I don't think the attack in itself is the problem, other than we're not defending from the front. So I think we can create enough chances, and more often than not, we'll find a way to score. But when you're then knowing that you give up 2 or 3 chances in the game when you're conceding, that's a bit disconcerting as well. But I am a big believer, Jonathan, like you've said, mate, in defending from the front. And when it gets to the keeper, it's gone through 3 layers of play and there's been mistakes all the way through the team. So yes, big believer in defending from the front, pressing, working hard, forcing teams into mistakes, condensing the pitch, all the things we celebrate and enjoyed under Jurgen. I don't know how to even read that one out. Do you think all those losses might affect players like Mark Gay, Semenyo in not coming to Liverpool? There's 2 ways to look at it, right? You can look at it and think, like you've said, would it mean you don't want to come in? Or do you look at it, which I think they would, and say, I'm going to come in there and make a difference. I'm going to come in and sort that defence out. I'm going to come in and score those goals. And then when I do that, I'm instantly loved. And it only would increase your reputation. Like, if you're Mark Gay and you came in and Liverpool started becoming a bit more defensively solid, your stock is going fucking high. Same with Antoine Semenyo. You'd be looking at this in their position, licking your lips, going, I'm going to go in there and get that team back to where it was. I'm going to go in there and make a difference. I'm going to go in there and, you know, show up some of these lads. So, yeah, I'd be thinking the opposite, actually. I'd be thinking they're licking their lips, going, put me in there, because I'll make it better. And when I do, I'll be loved. Who knows why he smiled? Could have been amused the manager throwing the kitchen sink at it when he knows the team don't know what the fuck they're doing. I never said we knew why he smiled. I never said he smiled in any particular manner. I only asked you, did you feel annoyed by him smiling? I never once said I had the reason that he smiled. Only Ibrahim Kanade can answer that. Enor said, hi mate, City fan here. We went very similar last year. Key players out of form, older players decline. Happened at the same time. I think that's it personally. Look, I've used that comparison myself, mate, quite a bit this season. But what I would say, dude, and look, it's still possible for us, even in your awful season last year, which is your worst under Pep, you still got to a cup final. even in your very worst, and got yourselves back in the Champions League. You know, this season, I don't know, man. And also, Pep had earned the right, you know, like Jurgen, Pep had earned the right to have a season where it was transitional or it wasn't working. And you never doubted that he was going to turn it around, you know. And once he got players back, fitness, new players bedded in, that City would be back. Do you know what I will say to you though, man? I was really surprised you lost today, because the team, you know, the performance you put in against us was impressive, and I thought you had the bit between your teeth again and we're going to start reeling Arsenal in. So really surprised you guys lost today. Nadrili said, every time I want to enjoy my team play, but then I feel like watching relegation team. Yep, it's frustrating. It is frustrating, especially when you know what's capable, you know, what we can do, what we have done. You see the Real Madrid performance, you know what we're capable of, and then we're just not doing it. Home to Forest. I said it before, Slot only destroyed a great team, said Eric. Stevie G is interim. I wouldn't say no, but it would very, very clearly be as interim. There is no hope you're getting the job full time. Like, I don't want to get lured into this. He wins a few games, sentiment kicks in. You know, short term, absolutely yes. Longer term, no, for me anyway. We should give Klopp more credit for the title. I think Klopp got a lot of credit for the title. But I think rather than saying give Klopp more credit, I think Arne hasn't gotten enough credit from some people for the title. You know, I've been somebody who said, I think he made a difference to us last year to win the league by being able to keep some players fitter. I think that was ultimately the difference, because with Jurgen, we fell away with injuries and exhaustion in the last season. So I think Slot came in, didn't tinker too much, but just took care of that side a little bit. But this season, when it is his, and, you know, he's got the backing, we're looking so far off it. Wiffa said, feel bad for FSG. They spend $500 million of their money only for us to get a hell of a lot worse. They won't make a mistake of giving us money again. Well, to be fair, they didn't net spend $500 million. Our net spend was less than Arsenal's, I believe, all in, with the sales we made. That being said, we still outlaid a lot of money. Net spend wise, what was it, about 200 mil, something like that. Still a shit ton of dough, and I'm not trying to say they didn't back the manager. They stepped up big time. And yeah, you would have a penny for their thoughts, wouldn't you? Like, I think Tom Werner was at the game today, if I'm not mistaken, in the director's box. Imagine him looking on thinking, this is us after 450 million invested. Sonder said, PSG Newcastle games were the beginning of the end. Win percentage before those at 81% and after 33%. I don't know why the PSG style made Arne throw it all out. Look, 6 losses from 7. Biggest home defeat in 10 years in the league today. 3-0. -2 goal difference. You know, whatever way you want to say it, this has been a catastrophe. And this stat from the BBC earlier, if Liverpool lose the next game in the league, 3-0, be the first time ever. Oh, no, sorry, we did this. My apologies. We've already lost this 3-0. I read this wrong earlier. So, this was during the game when Liverpool were losing 3-0. Liverpool are on course to lose back-to-back league games by a 3-goal margin for the first time since 1965. So that's now done, because we did lose 2 back-to-back 3-0. So that's the first since 1965. Like somebody else said, if you go back to after we lost the League Cup final last year and look at the results from there to now, it's not just this season. This one, how are we? And thank you for your super chat, my friend. Said, hey Craig, just joining in. What hurts is most of the players' reactions after we concede an early goal. You can see there's no fight in there. Yep, there's a lot of gesticulating, throwing the arms up. Yeah, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of shrugging shoulders. But yeah, there's no getting the ball, running back to the halfway line and rallying the troops and saying, no, this doesn't happen. You're right, they accept their fate too much, mate. And Michaels, Why doesn't Salah and Gakpo ever swap sides to go on the outside? I don't know, dude. I don't know. Aldo said something similar midweek in his opinion piece in the Echo, and he's right. You know, even under Klopp, we've seen it before. Mane and Salah used to swap sides. And I loved in the early days that front line, Mane, Salah, Firmino. They were so fluid in their movement. You know, they were a nightmare for defenders. They could all drop deep, they could swap sides, they could float, they just knew. Yeah, totally agree. I don't know why they don't try it out because there's a fascination with inverted wingers, and sometimes it, you know, like you said, if Salah's been marked out of a game, switch it up. Give them something to think about. Do you swap fullbacks then? Does somebody else mark Salah? You know, at least do something. Which Liverpool player would you sign now on current form? Soboslai. If you were like looking from the outside in to pick a player, it would have to be Soboslai based on form. Right, we're nearly up to 1,000 votes on this one. 150 to go. Did Canade smiling as he was substituted annoy you? Now, I'm not trying to say I know why he was smiling, but I just know it didn't look great to me. And as a body language thing, I didn't like looking at it. Salah and Gakpo can't play in the wings together, way too slow and predictable. Well, then we're in trouble because that they're the wingers. So yeah, if they can't do it, we're in trouble. Would I take Zidane and Luis Enrique? No. Zidane doesn't speak English for a start, and just is not the right type of person for our club, in my opinion. And I also think he's going to be the next French manager. Deschamps leaving after the World Cup, and I think that Zidane's going to take that job. Charles Atangi laughed at the Hillsborough Memorial and was never seen again. Do you think the same treatment for Canade smiling? No, it's not comparable. You know, let's be fair about it. I'm annoyed that Canade smiled, but it's we're not in a very solemn occasion like a Hillsborough Memorial. That's a different league of get the fuck out of here. Like, nah, that's there's no debate if that was insincere or disgusting. It was horrendous, and he was right to be run out. But Canade, look, we don't know why he smirked. For me, I just didn't like it. But in a memorial, no, that was just completely off the wall, unacceptable. The difference between Klopp and Slot is Slot's a head coach and Klopp's a manager. Bielsa didn't speak English. Look at what he did for Leeds, not language barrier. But on top of that, apart from the language barrier, I think it's Zidane is a huge example of Galactico Real Madrid. He's almost Real Madrid Galactico level personified. That's not our culture. That's not Liverpool. So that's when I say cultural difference, I mean that. Granted, in what you said about English, I still think it's easier if you can communicate with English. But on top of that, he's just a personification of everything Liverpool are not. He's an incredible player and obviously a great manager, but I just don't think he's anywhere near a cultural fit for us. Pundits match of the day said it should have been 4-0. I agree. I said it during the watch along. I think that goal should have stood, the one that apparently hit his arm. For me, that was a good goal and it should have stood. Zidane is bilingual. He speaks 4 languages. Taking Zidane as an idiot. Where did anybody say he was an idiot, dickhead? Well, as far as I'm aware, he doesn't speak English. So unless English is one of those 4 fucking languages, who said he's an idiot? Again, you're putting words in people's mouths. I'm saying he is a personification of a Galactico era of Real Madrid and is not a cultural fit for Liverpool. How do you get that into calling him an idiot? You fucking weirdo. Get over yourself. And also, he did headbutt somebody in the chest in the World Cup final, so he clearly ain't the fucking sharpest tool in the drawer. But or a Euros final, one or the other. But you know, am I taking him for an idiot? Well, where are we at? Get the Palace manager in, slot is mediocre, and got lucky last season, said Frodo Saggins. Look, at this point, I give him his credit for winning the league last year. I truly do, and I've defended him against the accusations it was Klopp's team loads of times. But I can't defend what I'm seeing now. And what I'm seeing now is a manager who has no identity in this team and doesn't seem to know how to stop the rot. And it's just not acceptable. It just isn't. On the Palace manager thing, I'm unsure. He's a little bit of pedigree, won the Europa League, obviously doing well with Palace. But again, you're looking at that Andoni Iraola, Brendan Rodgers. Like, it's so hard to make that next step up. Because when you're managing a Liverpool, a Manchester United, you're not just a football club manager. You're a figurehead. It's a bigger thing. And look, there's a lot to admire about Oliver Glasner. Obviously, he's very astute tactically, comes across very well, wins trophies, won the Europa League, won an FA Cup. It would still just be somewhat of a risk, if you get where I'm coming from. But maybe an acceptable risk, I don't know. Raekwon, how are we, dude? Craig, thanks for being an honest voice for the fans. Slot doesn't seem to fit the culture of this dressing room. Why do you think that is? I think it's the Dutch demeanour. Honestly, I do. Right, I think it's that laid-back, languid thing. So I think somebody nailed it earlier when they said Virgil's calmness was the kind of counterbalance to Jurgen's emotional madness. And you've got two guys now who are both kind of laid back, very articulate, obviously very intelligent men, but very laid back in their demeanour. And I just think that's costing us a bit at the minute. Where's the fear factor? So, did Canade smiling when he was subbed annoy you? We've gone past 1,000 votes and 81% say yes. Craig, your number one realistic next manager. Oh, God. Best guess, someone to tread water till the end of the season and try to get Nagelsmann for Germany after the World Cup. That's the only, off the top of my head now, that's the only thing I can really think of. I understand the Iraola shouts. I think it's somewhat of a risk. Whether it's worth risking or not, I don't know. Same for Oliver Glasner. I can totally understand why people throw the name in the mix. Someone said Inzaghi, who I wouldn't say no to either. I think Gerrard in the short term would be a sensible, motivational option. But longer term, it may be, is there a bit of a merry-go-round after the World Cup or not? Or can you talk somebody else into the job? Or I don't know. It's a really difficult one. And that's why when people say, and I've said at the start of the stream, who would you bring in? I've been honest and say I truly don't know, but I do know that this can't go on. Right, I'm going to say goodnight because we've been on 2 hours and 15, and I appreciate all of you coming in. I hope we've been able to get a lot off our chest this evening. If I can ask you one little favour before you go, please do hit that like button. See if we can get us up over the 1,000 likes. If you haven't subscribed, we'd love you to do that as well. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll have, I think, a news video in the early afternoon, and then I'll be back tomorrow night for the late night agenda. We're also recording an episode of the podcast tomorrow, myself, Chris and Connor, so that'll be out tomorrow night at about 10:45 as well. But thank you all for coming in. Really appreciate your time tonight. It's really helped me to work through some stuff, and I hope we've all we've all gotten a little bit off our chest. You've all been amazing, really, really good, and thank you so much. But yeah, do hit that like button for me.